Hey Zombie Slayers, Jonathan here at Night Knowledge, and you know what? There have been an overreaction and overpouring of negativity these days for the 2.0 Storm Brewing update in 7 Days to Die. So much so, I think people are starting to sound a little bratty and entitled, and I thought I should give my own 2 cents, but it's not going to be a 20-minute video, because we don't do that here. So players, myself included, wasn't jazzed about the new dynamic storms, as it felt like a timeout, forcing players to run to a building ASAP, otherwise take damage periodically. I often found myself turning around immediately when entering a biome that had a storm in progress. So what were the devs thinking? Well, according to last week's town hall with the devs, this was all for a grand idea of a future Bandits implementation. And if that isn't good enough for you, it's alright. Take a pill. Nothing is ever really set in stone when it comes to game development. The devs plan on changing the storms to have 2 stages and to bring back proper weather survival options. As an example, if in the Arctic biome, there could be 2 types of storms, mild and severe with different effects. Players will be able to use items like campfires and torches to stay warm when exposed, or even make mods like insulation mods, or even find future clothing in laundry baskets or washing machines that can provide you additional protection from storms. At the end of the day, in regards to storms, they're here to stay. But the devs are definitely making moves to make them more enjoyable, and said that they plan in a future update to be able to modify the duration, frequency, and even damage that you take from storms in the server settings. If you still hate it though at this point, there was always the ability to turn them off entirely. The next big pain point that many players bemoan is the Biome Badges. Once again, the devs state how they only had positive intention, and that it all leads to their vision of the game that they have, which includes a story and bandits, and that biome progression is how they do that and guide the player. But if it's open-ended like how loud players want or describe, it's more difficult or disjointed, but still not impossible. The devs have still heard our feedback though, and in the future, you'll be able to work on any biome badge without requiring the previous biome badge, allowing you to go to high-end biomes like the wasteland or the Arctic right after the forest. That's not all it though. They've put a lot of thought into how to make this better, and it wasn't anything I honestly saw any complaining players suggest, because here's the thing. You can be dissatisfied with how a developer implements updates to their game, but if you don't provide meaningful ways to improve the system that is possible, you do better to just shout into the void. One of the coolest improvements that they plan for the Biome Badge is that when completed, it'll unlock a craftable survival item that'll protect you from the environmental effects. You'll no longer need to find a trader to get the badge, and you'll be able to craft that item for friends that haven't completed it yet. I definitely had this problem last week during a blood moon when I realized that one of my friends didn't obtain the Wasteland Biome Badge yet and had to just make a ton of smoothies, depleting our acid reserves unfortunately. Smoothies will still have its own place, taking different forms that will provide up to 50% damage resistance to storms, which I definitely appreciate so long as they're not too expensive to make. Okay, so what else are people complaining about? Biome loot stage caps. I honestly like them. It encouraged me to go to other biomes to get better gear. Otherwise, I'd just stay in the forest until I feel like going to the wasteland for a challenge. Players apparently like their freedom though, so unbunch your panties guys. The devs said that they'll remove this. Everything that players disliked about the 2.0 update wasn't done maliciously by the devs, and they're only people, so they'll receive your sometimes very toxic feedback that you think is speaking your mind, and the devs in turn will try to find a solution that works for their vision. But this obviously takes away time from doing what they're trying to work on, which is bandits right now. Once again stating that biome loot stage caps were added to add a sense of progression, encouraging players to go to each biome. I've always found 7 Days to Die a cakewalk once I figured out combat and how to build a Blood Moon base. Even with dynamic storms, biome badges, and biome loot stage caps were added to the game, I progressed very quickly. I think if players don't like this biome progression and want to go straight to the Arctic or the Wasteland, they should maybe try first upping the difficulty from Adventurer, and they'll quickly find themselves not wanting to tackle it immediately because it's too hard. The last big change they discussed was a redo of the visual design of the Plague Spitter and Frost Claw special Zeds. I don't believe anyone was actually asking for that, more that they were asking to decrease the unnaturally high spawn rate, which they will, and in turn reduce the requirements for the Biome Badge. Feeling like a broken record, the devs have stated that there is a story behind where we are, the Zeds we encounter, and the villains of the game, so they're changing the design model of the Zeds to fit the story they're planning on telling. So, those were the big topics that I thought was important to cover from the recent 7 Days to Die Town Hall. Let me know in the comments below whether you had a chance to watch the VOD and what you think of the proposed changes. At the end of the day though, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but I think it's better to be like this guy's reply. I just recorded day 26 of Storm Brewing, and I'm loving it. And I'm loving it because I'm having fun, not because of any changes that were made or weren't made. I don't think about them. I just play and go with the flow. This guy is a beaut. So you can be miserable and toxic, or you can be like this guy and just enjoy the game for what it is. And God forbid you don't think that the changes are fast enough or to your liking. Go try a different game. There are a ton of great zombie games out there, but honestly, not as good as 7 Days to Die. Anyways, thanks for joining me today. Check out the rest of my channel for other videos on 7 Days to Die, video games, board games, and other fun things. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.